before we can start scoring to picture, there is something that we have to understand, and that's the relationship between time and tempo. And the key word here is relationship, because time and tempo are not the same thing, though they are related. And I'll show you how. First of all, let's look at time. Now, time can be defined in so many different ways, right? And if you take the dictionary definition, well, you can see that time means a lot of things to a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And one of those situations is a person who writes music for film or TV. But first, let's take a broader view, because time can be talked about in terms of years and decades and millenniums and, well, even light years. But that's not the type of time that we need to know about when scoring to film and video. You see, we're looking at time much more microscopically. We're looking at hours or minutes or seconds or even parts of seconds. And it's really actually the parts of seconds that's most important. I'll show you what I mean. We, as video and film scorers, think of time in terms of SMPTE time. S-M-P-T-E. SMPTE. So what the heck is SMPTE time? Well, it's actually a standard. And it's a standard that was set up by the Society of Motion, Picture, and Television Engineers, thus SMPTE. Now, these folks set a lot of standards, but one standard that we're dealing with is the standard that they set for counting. Yeah, that's all SMPTE time is a way for us to count time in terms of motion picture and TV. Now, most of the counting is going to seem pretty normal, right? And you've probably seen SMPTE time. It kind of looks like this. The number on the left, which is number 1, signifies hours. And hours can be divided into minutes, right? We're all familiar with this. Minutes can be divided into seconds. And finally, seconds can be divided into, this is where it gets a little different. Seconds are divided into frames. And that's where a lot of people get confused. How can seconds be divided into frames? Because we think of frames as something physical, right? We don't think of it in terms of time. We think of frames as little video pictures or film pictures put right next to each other. But the key is that frames are moving, so we can measure them. They have a fixed speed that we can measure in terms of SMPTE time, because SMPTE time is a constant. We can measure frames per second, right? Seconds are solid, but frame rates can change. So SMPTE time gives us our way of measuring frames per second. All professions have something they can depend on, some kind of measurement they can depend on. Architects have feet and inches, and cooks have cups and pints and tablespoons. And us film scorers measure things in SMPTE time. Now let's talk about tempo. So what is tempo? First of all, it's a lot easier to define than time. Tempo is speed. The speed of anything, right? It could be the speed of film. It could be the speed of cars. Or it could be the speed of music. Now, we all know that music can come in all kinds of different tempi. Anything from really fast, frantic stuff to very slow, mellow stuff. When you're driving in a car, you express tempo in terms of miles per hour. And you can start out slow and then go really, really fast. Luckily, in music and in film scoring, you can't get a ticket for going too fast. You could get fired, but you won't get a ticket. So tempo, unlike time, is changeable and inconstant, right? However, we need to understand time in order to measure tempo, because tempo is always talked about in terms of time. Like in a car, your tempo is miles per hour. But in music, it's different. Let's say that this dotted line represents a period of time. It doesn't even matter what it is. In that period of time, you could have a lot of music or a little bit of music. You could have one measure of music, or you could fit in 2 measures of music at a faster tempo, or 3 measures of music at an even faster tempo. And all this could be changing within this same period of time. So as time remains constant, tempo is changeable and inconstant. And because we can depend on time, because it doesn't change, we talk about tempo in terms of time, right? Since time is a constant, we can express music tempo in terms of time. And we do that using... No, Igor, we don't talk about music in terms of miles per hour. Get that other slide up there. Sorry about that. We talk about music in terms of beats per minute. It's really the same thing, miles per hour or beats per minute. It's just another way of expressing tempo. So that's music tempo versus time. There's another type of tempo that we use in film scoring, and that's the tempo or speed of the actual film or video itself. And that's exactly what we're going to look at in the next video. So I'll see you next time.